Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. This time, we're going to the Andes
Oh, wow.
to explore the sounds of the quena.
I love the quena.
It's amazing this instrument has been around for over 5,000 years. Where do we even begin with a history that long?
Well, it's interesting because the quena actually predates even the Incas by centuries.
Really?
Yeah, like millennia. We're talking the Shavina Nazca.
Wow.
And our sources say that these cultures used materials like condor bones and pelican bones to craft the quena.
Wow, that's incredible. It really shows you how connected to nature this instrument really is.
Yeah.
Were there any specific beliefs or rituals associated with the quena in these early cultures?
Well, these Andean cultures viewed the world through animism, so they believed that everything had a spirit. And the quena, with its haunting sound, was probably seen as like a bridge between the human and the spiritual realms.
That's amazing.
It's not just an instrument, it's like an artifact of their worldview.
So the quena isn't just making music, it's facilitating communication with the divine.
Exactly.
Now, how on earth did the quena survive through colonization?
Yeah.
So much of indigenous culture was suppressed.
Yeah, you're right. The Spanish conquistadors tried to eradicate a lot of the indigenous traditions, but the quena, it kind of endured. It might be because of its adaptability.
Okay.
The quena could be used for both sacred and secular music.
Interesting.
So it was able to blend into new contexts while still kind of keeping its essence.
So it's like a musical chameleon.
Yeah.
Able to adapt and thrive in all these different environments.
Exactly.
It makes you wonder if the conquistadors even understood the significance of the instrument that they were trying to suppress.
Yeah, there's some irony there for sure.
Yeah.
But speaking of adapting and thriving, the quena didn't stop there.
Right.
It had a resurgence in the 20th century.
The folk music revival.
Exactly.
The world was rediscovering the beauty and power of traditional music.
Yeah.
Did this impact the quena's role or how it was perceived?
Oh, absolutely. The quena went from like a hidden cultural artifact to a symbol of Andean pride and identity.
Wow.
It even started appearing in new musical contexts like jazz and rock,
Really?
and even film scores.
That's a fascinating evolution. From ancient rituals to the silver screen.
Yeah,
That's quite a journey for an instrument.
it is.
I'm curious what makes the quena sound so unique. One of our sources mentioned a playing technique called embocadura.
Yeah, so the embocadura is really important for producing the quena's sound.
Okay.
Unlike a flute with a mouthpiece, you blow across the edge of the open tube.
Oh.
And you kind of have to shape the sound with changes in your mouth and lip position.
So it's a delicate dance between breath and instrument.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Our sources did say that it takes a lot of practice and patience to master the quena.
It really does. It's not something you can just pick up.
Right.
But that's part of what makes it so captivating. It's
Yeah.
like this conversation between the musician and the instrument.
Nice.
And through that conversation, the sound emerges that's haunting and deeply moving.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about the history,
Yeah.
the unique sound, but I want to know more about the quena's role in traditional Andean music.
Okay.
Our sources mentioned a genre called huayno. Can you tell me about that?
Oh, yeah. Huayno.
Yeah.
It's like the heartbeat of the Andes. It's a genre that's woven into the cultural fabric of the region.
Okay.
You see it in the festivals high in the mountains.
I can just imagine.
People dressed in colorful clothes,
Yeah.
dancing to these rhythms.
And the quena's soaring above it all.
Exactly, adding this layer of emotional depth.
Wow.
And what's interesting is that huayno often expresses a blend of joy and sorrow,
Oh.
reflecting the complexities of life in the Andes.
So it's not just about celebration.
Right.
There's a melancholic element to it as well.
Exactly. The quena's plaintive melodies seem to echo the resilience of the Andean people, their connection to the land, and a sense of longing that's hard to define, but deeply resonant. One source even described it as the sound of the wind whispering ancient stories.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
It sounds like the quena is more than just an instrument in these traditions.
Yeah.
It's almost like a storyteller, a keeper of history.
You're right. Our sources also highlighted the quena's role in ceremonial music used for rituals that connect people to nature spirits and their ancestors.
Wow.
So it's this sonic bridge between the physical and spiritual realms.
So it's carrying on that ancient function of facilitating communication with the divine,
Uh-huh.
even in contemporary Andean cultures.
Exactly.
It really speaks to the enduring power of these traditions.
It does.
What can you tell me about the musicians themselves? What kind of skills and knowledge are needed to master the quena?
Well, as we said earlier, mastering the embocadura is essential.
Right.
But it goes beyond that. A skilled quena player possesses an intimate understanding of Andean musical scales and rhythms, often passed down through generations.
Whoa.
They're not just playing notes, they're channeling centuries of tradition and emotion.
It sounds like a true apprenticeship.
Yeah,
A dedication to preserving something ancient and precious.
you got it.
Given that deep connection to tradition, I'm curious how the quena has fared in modern times, especially with the rise of global music labs. Our sources mentioned a fusion with other genres, which sounds fascinating.
It is. Imagine the sounds of the quena blending with jazz, or the rhythms of rock.
Wow.
Some artists even use it in electronic music, creating this unique soundscape that bridges ancient and modern sounds.
So the quena is proving its versatility,
Yeah,
able to hold its own alongside modern instruments and genres.
exactly.
I'd love to know more about these contemporary artists who are experimenting with the quena.
Okay.
Do any specific examples come to mind from our sources?
Well, we won't mention any names to avoid playing favorites.
Of course.
But our sources did highlight some truly innovative musicians who are pushing the boundaries of what the quena can do.
Right.
Some are fusing Andean folk melodies with jazz or classical music,
Interesting.
while others are creating entirely new soundscapes that blur the lines between tradition and experimentation.
It's amazing to think that an instrument with such ancient roots can still feel so fresh and relevant today.
It is.
It speaks to the power of music to transcend time
Yeah,
and connect with audiences across generations.
absolutely.
It makes you wonder, how do we ensure that the quena and its traditions continue to flourish in a world that's constantly evolving?
That's a great question.
On one hand, you want to preserve the authenticity and cultural significance of the quena,
Right.
but on the other hand, you don't want to stifle innovation and creativity.
It's a delicate balance for sure.
Yeah.
But luckily, our sources highlighted a growing movement dedicated to promoting and preserving Andean music.
Okay.
There are organizations, festivals, and workshops popping up worldwide, creating spaces for master musicians to pass on their knowledge to younger generations.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
There's a conscious effort to ensure that these traditions don't fade away,
yeah.
but rather evolve and continue to resonate with new audiences.
Exactly. It's a testament to the enduring power of the quena and the dedication of those who strive to keep its music alive.
It really is.
But the quena's story doesn't end in the Andes.
Oh.
Yeah, it's really gone global.
It's amazing to think that the sound of the Andes has reached far beyond the mountains themselves.
It really is.
Our sources mentioned the quena's global reach, and I'm eager to learn more about how it's resonated with audiences worldwide.
Well, it's a testament to the quena's universal appeal, you know?
Yeah.
One of our sources highlighted its use in film scores,
Oh, really?
especially those seeking to evoke a sense of ancient mystery or the grandeur of nature.
Oh, I can see that.
Think about those sweeping shots of vast landscapes,
Right.
often accompanied by the quena's haunting melodies.
It's like the quena adds a layer of emotional depth and authenticity, transporting viewers to another world.
You're right, it taps into something primal, something that resonates with people across cultures,
Yeah.
and it goes beyond film, too.
Okay.
Our sources also discussed its use in world music collaborations.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
It makes me think about how music can transcend cultural boundaries
Yeah.
and create something truly unique through collaboration.
It's like a conversation between different traditions.
Exactly.
The quena's unique timbre and emotional resonance seem to lend themselves beautifully to these cross-cultural exchanges.
Right.
Blending seamlessly with instruments from around the world,
It's beautiful.
creating a rich tapestry of sound.
It's a reminder that music is a powerful force for connection, bridging cultural divides and creating a sense of shared experience.
Exactly.
Now, one of our sources touched on something I found particularly intriguing: the use of the quena in therapeutic settings.
Oh, yeah.
What can you tell me about that?
Well, there's growing interest in the quena's therapeutic potential. Its calming and introspective qualities seem to promote relaxation and emotional well-being.
I'm all ears. I know I find certain kinds of music incredibly soothing, but what is it about the quena sound in particular that makes it so therapeutic?
Well, researchers believe it's due to a combination of factors.
Okay.
First, there's its connection to nature.
Okay.
The quena's sound often evokes imagery of wide open spaces,
I can see that.
windswept landscapes, and a sense of grounding in the natural world.
Right.
This connection to nature has a calming effect on the nervous system,
That makes sense.
helping to reduce stress and anxiety.
There's something about the quena's sound that feels very grounded and organic.
Right, and then there's the simplicity of its melodies.
Okay.
They're often quite straightforward and repetitive, which
Yeah.
can be very soothing to the mind. It's like
Right.
a musical mantra,
Oh,
helping to quiet the mental chatter and create a sense of inner peace.
it's like the music washes over you, carrying away tension and worry. I can definitely see how that would be therapeutic.
And finally, we can't forget the quena's emotional depth.
Yeah.
It's capable of expressing a wide range of emotions, from joy and celebration to sorrow and longing.
Right.
This allows listeners to connect with their own feelings,
Right.
perhaps even process difficult emotions in a safe and healthy way.
It's like the quena gives voice to emotions that words sometimes can't express.
Beautifully put.
Wow.
And that brings us back to the heart of what makes the quena so special.
What?
It's more than just an instrument.
Right.
It's a vessel for history, culture, emotion, and spirituality.
It's a reminder that music has the power to connect us to ourselves, to each other, and to something larger than ourselves.
Absolutely. And its enduring popularity speaks to the human need for creative expression, for connecting with our past, and for finding meaning in the world around us.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the captivating world of the quena,
Yeah.
what's the one key takeaway you'd want our listener to walk away with?
Well, I'd say this. The next time you hear the sound of a quena, really listen.
Okay.
Let its melodies wash over you and allow yourself to be transported. You might be surprised by what you discover: a connection to ancient cultures, a sense of peace and tranquility, or perhaps even a newfound appreciation for the power of music to touch the soul.
That's a beautiful sentiment.
Thank you.
And for our listener, if you're feeling inspired, I encourage you to seek out quena music and experience its magic for yourself.
Yeah.
You might just discover a new favorite sound. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's really made its way around the world.
It's amazing to think that the sound of the Andes has reached so far beyond the mountains.
Yeah, it's really something.
Our sources mentioned the quena's global reach, and I'm so curious to know how it's resonated with audiences worldwide.
It really speaks to the quena's universal appeal. One source highlighted its use in film scores.
Oh, interesting.
You know, those that want to evoke a sense of ancient mystery or the grandeur of nature.
I can definitely see that.
Think of those sweeping shots of vast landscapes,
Right.
accompanied by the quena's haunting melodies.
It's like the quena adds this layer of emotional depth
Right.
and authenticity.
Yeah.
It transports viewers to another world.
It really does tap into something primal, something that resonates across cultures.
You know, I've definitely felt that transportive power myself when I hear it in movies.
I think a lot of people have.
Yeah.
And it goes beyond film, too.
Oh,
Our sources also mention its integration into world music collaborations.
that's fascinating. It makes me think about how music can really transcend cultural boundaries.
It can.
And through these collaborations, create something so unique.
Right, it's like a musical conversation between different traditions.
Exactly.
You know, the quena's timbre and emotional resonance really lend themselves to these cross-cultural exchanges.
I can see that.
It blends so well with instruments from around the world.
Yeah.
It creates this tapestry of sound that's both familiar and exotic.
It's beautiful. It's a good reminder that music is a powerful force for connection. It bridges cultural divides and creates a sense of shared experience.
Absolutely.
Now, one of our sources mentioned something I found really intriguing.
Okay.
The use of the quena in therapeutic settings.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Can you tell me more about that?
Well, there's a growing interest in the quena's therapeutic potential. You know, its calming and introspective qualities.
Yeah.
They seem to promote relaxation and emotional well-being.
I can see that. I know I find certain kinds of music incredibly soothing.
Yeah.
But what is it about the quena's sound specifically that makes it so therapeutic?
Well, researchers think it's a combination of factors.
Okay.
First, there's that connection to nature.
Right.
The quena's sound evokes imagery of wide open spaces,
Yeah.
windswept landscapes,
Yeah.
you know, and a sense of being grounded in nature.
Yeah.
And this connection to nature calms the nervous system,
Okay.
then helps to reduce stress and anxiety.
I can see that there's something about the quena's sound that feels very grounded and organic.
Exactly. And then there's the simplicity of its melodies.
Yeah.
You know, they're often pretty straightforward and repetitive.
Right.
And that can be soothing to the mind.
Yeah, it kind of gets rid of the mental chatter.
Exactly. It's like a musical mantra.
Like the music washes over you and carries away all that tension and worry.
Uh-huh.
I can see how that would be therapeutic.
And finally, there's the quena's emotional depth.
Right.
It can express such a wide range of emotions.
Yeah.
From joy and celebration to sorrow and longing.
Right.
And this allows people to connect with their own feelings, maybe even process those difficult emotions in a healthy way.
It's like the quena gives a voice to emotions that words sometimes can't.
That's a great way to put it.
It really is.
It brings us back to what makes the quena so special.
Yeah.
It's so much more than just an instrument.
Right.
It's a vessel for history and culture, emotion, and even spirituality.
It's a reminder that music has the power to connect us to ourselves, to each other, and to something bigger than ourselves.
Absolutely. And I think its enduring popularity speaks to that human need for creative expression,
Yeah.
for connection with our past, and for finding meaning in the world.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of the quena, what's the one thing you want our listener to take away?
I would say this. The next time you hear the sound of a quena, really listen to it.
Okay.
Let the melodies wash over you and let yourself be transported to another place. You might be surprised by what you discover.
Yeah.
Maybe a connection to these ancient cultures, a sense of peace and tranquility, or even a newfound appreciation for the power of music.
I love that sentiment. And for our listeners, if you're feeling inspired, go seek out some quena music and experience its magic for yourself.
Yeah.
You might just discover a new favorite sound. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.